Within the pack of contents for this two-road N-gauge shed, you've got the internal breeze block sections, and these need to be primed before you adhere these to the skeleton framework. They are numbered on the back, so you can make sure that when you come to install them, basically the shed, it will be A1, A2, A3, A4, A5, A6. This one will be B1, B2, B3, B4, B5, B6, so you know which ways to put them in. So I'm going to take these into the garage. I'm going to give them a white primer. I'm not going to weather these down at the moment. This shed I'm building is basically looking like new, so I haven't got time to weather this one, unfortunately. So I'm going to create a brand new shed, so it will get a couple of coats of white primer left as it is, and most probably will matte varnish them afterwards as well for added protection. It's certainly worth considering. And then obviously these will be fitted once we've installed the roof trusses. Now obviously the roof trusses are going to go on one side first, not on this side, so then we can install the internal brick pieces there. That will be quite simple because we'll be able to do it on its side. We'll be able to get those quite easily, but obviously once we come to then glue the roof trusses to this side, which we'll have to do before we put this side of the bricks on, then you're going to need to be extremely careful on how you do these, because obviously these roof trusses are extremely fragile and thin. You don't want to be breaking them at this point of time. So let's move on. Let's go and give these some coats of white primer, and then we can move on. So again, I've used some Tamiya masking tape. If you haven't got Tamiya, just use a low tack. You could use normal masking tape for this, to be honest, not the end of the world on the back of this. Doubled it up and then just loosely put some 4 panels on just to keep them in position, and done that all the way along. I should take these into the garage and prime these. Hopefully through this build you got to this stage where we have completed our base. We've painted it and done exactly what we need to do. You've got your side panels that have been primed, and you've got your hexagon frames fitted. You've got your end skeletons with all your depot door runners and top boxes fitted, and you've also primed your roof trusses. So we now need to move on to the next stage. So we pushed one side and the 2 end skeleton frames away. We just need one side skeleton frame, and I'm using the far side. We don't really need the base at this moment. I'm going to keep it here to hand. And you need the roof trusses. Now hopefully you've painted or primed and painted all these, and you should have 8. You do however only need 7, so you've got 1 spare just in case you break one. Now these are really fragile. We have strengthened them on the corners, but they're extremely thin and very delicate, so you need to do this bit really careful. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be gluing all the roof trusses into the associate holes on the frame. Do one at a time. Put some glue inside the hole, a tiny bit of glue on the edges of the roof truss, push them in, and we suggest, because obviously you can see that slightly loose, that you keep it at an angle 90 degrees and hold it there for about 30 seconds for it just to bond, then move on and obviously start at one end and go to the other. This is where it's going to get really delicate, because you've then got all these roof trusses sticking out, and obviously the next task will be then to complete the internal brick parts. So you've got to be very careful that you don't accidentally touch this bit and snap it. So we're going to be gluing these into the holes, allowing them to dry, and then we'll come back and do the brickwork. And also we will need to then obviously put the end parts on as well. So let's start that, and we'll come back and show you when we've done that bit. Just remember, as you go along, obviously you've put glue inside the hole of the skeleton frame. We suggest that you do it from the other side. Just wipe it away before you put these on, and obviously then when you push these down, you might find some glue escapes underneath and goes onto your base. So you just need to make sure that you keep moving this around, so you don't glue this to whatever base you're using. So I'm just picking it up and then just wiping away from the back, being careful not to knock these. So we've done 5. Got a little problem with that one, seems to be bending a little bit, but obviously once we can get the other side in, it will straighten itself out. But I'm just going to hold that one there for a little bit longer to make sure that's as straight as possible. So hopefully you've got all your roof trusses in, they're all glued, drying, and you haven't broken any. And we're going to allow that to dry now. I'm going to let it dry for 10 or 15 minutes. Once that's done, then I'm going to put it on its side, make sure it then all fits into the base and over this side, and then we can put the end parts on and start to make this become a bit more of a rigid shell. So as you can see, I've fitted it on the far side. They all fit inside the grooves of the base nicely, and I've just quickly put them in the other sides just to keep them in position. Obviously we've got to put the brickwork in next, so it's going to go back on its side, but I just wanted to see what it looked like and make sure it's all okay. So far so good, and then we'll move on to doing the bricks. So we've got this far, and our next job is to glue the internal breeze blocks, the brickwork, to the interior sides of the skeleton frame. Now we're only doing the side that we've glued the roof trusses to. We're not doing both sides at the moment. Obviously we haven't got this side. Hopefully you've painted your bricks. I've just done them in a white primer. I haven't done any matte varnish, but I normally matte varnish these, but it's turned cold again outside. I haven't got the time to allow this to dry fully, and I need to crack on, so I haven't matte varnished them. But I would certainly suggest, if you're going to do some weathering on them, is to matte varnish them anyway. Right, so I will have numbered them on the back, most probably similar to what this is, and they're so 1 to 6. So the far side, or this side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then the other side, W1, W2, W3, W4. That's the way the brickwork works, because basically I've designed the brickwork in 4 length, and then obviously then it would break up between the roof trusses. So these need to be glued in position. Now I'm going to be taking the skeleton frame away from the base, so these bricks need to go, they need to align with the windows. They then should then align with the bottom of the base. So when you move the base away, you should have a gap between the bricks and the bottom of the skeleton frame, which allows this to clip around the base still. Ooh, nearly. See, be careful when you do this. So just be careful, because obviously on the end you don't have any windows for it to guide from. So what I might just do is just add a tiny bit of glue onto number 6s and put them in position at the ends, because I can probably put my fingers in there without hopefully damaging any of these. But the windows, you can just make sure that they're parallel and have a bit of spare MDF or something that you can put through to make sure they are. So just take your time on this one. So we'll move on and we'll do these, and I'll come back and show you once they're done. So I have just tested putting this piece in, so you can literally move it into the side and it fits. Now if you've painted these too much and they don't fit in between the roof trusses, you are going to need to sand the ends. So again, you're going to need to check these as you go along. Now hopefully you won't have, and it won't be a problem, but when you come to glue it, all you need, because these are very, very thin, they're not going to go anywhere, is a bit of glue on here, spread out. I might use the superphatic glue for this one, because obviously the glue and glaze is a thicker glue, so I'm going to use the superphatic, just a tiny bit of glue. They don't need much adhesion to the side because they're not going to go anywhere. So I'm going to crack on and do those and come back and show you when it's done. Right, so as you can see, all the brickwork is in place, and what I basically did in the end, obviously the numbers on the back of the brickwork represents which way up they go, so make sure the number is facing upwards the correct way. And I just added a bit of glue to the back of each one, got some tweezers, held it on the top, and just literally pinched it and put it inside and leant it up against it, holding my finger on the base just here to make sure it didn't move, and then just pushing it up against it. These are plenty thickness. In fact, most probably there's a couple that I think are a little bit too small, so I might add a little bit of extra length to those, but they were quite easy to do, so I just added some tweezers, moved in, rather than take the base off and try and work out if you can get it in there, and you stand a chance of breaking the roof trusses. So that was quite simple. Use a set of tweezers, put them in the side, move them in into place, and then just push them in and they'll hold. So they're done. So that's one side. Obviously we've still got the doors to go inside. As you can see, there's a gap there for the door, the big double door, and at the other end the single door. We'll worry about those later when the whole kit's done. But now I'm going to allow those to dry. We now need to look at adding the ends to the skeleton framework, and then allow that to dry thoroughly, and then we can add this side of the skeleton framework, and then we'll have a complete frame and hopefully a little bit more secure. So that's it. We'll move on to the next stage.